Hi Forest Schoolers, welcome to week 2 of our virtual Forest School. So last week we really enjoyed the book Where the Wild Things Are, and I don't know whether you remember, but Max built a den in his house, but Eddie, actually banged it to the wall, didn't he? So he was getting in a bit of trouble. We're not going to bang anything to the wall, but we thought we'd make a den today. We love making dens at Forest School, and we use waterproof things like tarpaulins. So if you had those at home, you could make it outdoors. But most people, that's not the sort of thing they've got just lying around their house. But what they do have are blankets and cushions and bedding. So we thought we would just build one with the things that we've got in our house indoors. To remind us of what Forest School is like. And then we're going to read once we get in there, when we're all cosy. So Eddie, I'm going to hand over to you and you can build a den however you want. You've got the chairs you can use, you've got the sheets, and you've got some cushions and blankets. So Eddie has made this fantastic den and it feels really cosy in here, doesn't it? Really lovely. I also shared with you some photos from our walks of beautiful icy trees and snowy scenes from the past week. And I wanted to share with you this poem that they reminded me of, called A Winter Morning Poem by Ogden Nash. And I think it really describes the icy scenes we've seen. Winter is the king of showmen, turning tree stumps into snowmen, and houses into birthday cakes, and spreading sugar over lakes. Smooth and clean and frosty white, the world looks good enough to bite. That's the season to be young, catching snowflakes on your tongue. Snow is snowy when it's snowing. I'm sorry, it's slushy when it's going. Do you think that describes the walks that we've had this week?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you manage to catch anything on your tongue?
No.
No, there wasn't.
Very hygienic.
Not very hygienic. There wasn't much snow, was there?
No.
But there was loads and loads of ice. The trees just looked spectacular, didn't they?
Yeah, it looked like some sort of chandelier.
It did look like a chandelier. You're right. That's exactly what it looked
Free
like.
chandelier.
A free one, yeah. Well, nature provides lots of things for free for us, doesn't it? I'm sharing with you here some photos from my walk last week. You can see the amazing silver birch. Silver birch are one of my favourite trees, and they're sometimes called the Lady of the Forest. And here she really does look like a very elegant lady indeed, with her really silvery branches with the ice. In the springtime, if you find a silver birch, and if you put your ear right against the trunk and you cover up your other ear, you'll be able to hear her noisily slurping up the water from beneath to help her grow. Here's a close-up of the branches all encrusted with ice. Absolutely incredible to see how they're entirely surrounded by the ice. And this is a photo of the tree that we thought looked a bit like a chandelier with the ice hanging down from the trees. In the poem we just read by Ogden Nash, he described the world looking good enough to eat. And those branches do just look as if they've been covered with a layer of icing, don't they? I think if Ogden Nash had seen that branch, he might well have given it a good shake and tried to catch some of it on his tongue. Mrs. Lee's also been going on lots of new walks this week, and she's going to share with you some photos of what she's discovered.
Myself and my family discovered the most amazing walk at the weekend. It was cold and foggy in my village, and we just walked up to the top of the hill and we had the most glorious blue skies. we bumped into some fabulous cows. I know cows are cows and they're not very inspiring, but they were to us. They were friendly and they were happy, and we're not seeing many people at the moment. So when the cows came over and we're letting my children stroke their little noses and their ears, we were all overjoyed. Like Mrs. Armstead mentioned, Max used his imagination, so we decided to do the same. And the next two photographs are tree trunks, but look at the bottom. They look like giant green toes. So myself and my children giggled lots and thought about the trees walking at night time when we're not there, laughing at each other. Can you see what I see? Take a look at this photograph and the long branches. I imagine a dinosaur. Can you spot the dinosaur's long neck trying to nibble on the tree next to it? So while out on our walk today, myself and the children and Fig found this amazing den. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Bert, can you get in the den? Oh, you could do with a little seat really, couldn't you, Bert?
Yeah.
So tell me, Bert, what does it feel like to be in the den?
It feels very cosy, sheltered from the rainy trees.
The rainy trees?
Yeah.
Do you think it's very well built? It looks amazing, doesn't it?
Lots of big sticks, leaves to stop the rain coming in.
What do you think you'll do to add to it now while we've got a few minutes?
Maybe put some more leaves on it, make it look like it's a bit more sheltered.
What about something else? Trying to give you a clue. What are you doing there? What about something to?
Get a store to sit on or some big logs.
Yeah. So should we go and see what we can find and see if we can change it a little bit? Perfect. So at the moment we're trying to find something to sit on so we can add it to this most amazing den. There's a couple of fallen trees. We can't seem to find any logs. Let me show you the den from this angle. Somebody's worked really hard on this. Massive branches. It's a bit bigger than the one I made at Forest School. Ah, kids, look what I can see. What about this log over here?
Hello again, so we're back in our lovely Forest School site and we're still thinking about dens. And Mrs. Lee and I were just talking, weren't we, about how the benefits of dens, and at the moment there isn't much space for everyone in their homes, is there? We're all sort of in together, trying to work from home, trying to learn from home and be a happy family all at the same time. And you saw the video of my son building his den. He actually spent the entire afternoon, Mrs. Lee, in that den doing his home learning then, away from the rest of us, and that was really relaxing for us because dens can be a really safe space, feeling enclosed and safe.
And it's okay to have time away from your family members. You're not being rude if you want to have a little bit of time out in your bedroom or just in your living room, anywhere. Just find somewhere safe and warm, a blanket. It's okay to be away from everybody because there's not really much escape at the moment, and the only people that you can really interact with are your family. Normally you have time at school and with your friends and on the football pitch, but we haven't got that. So let's use our imagination and remember all those good times that are going to come, and they're going to happen, and it won't be long. But take time out, it's okay.
And so the benefit of the dens in the house is that you can stay warm in the winter, but there's also loads of benefits, as we were saying last week, to being outdoors in nature regardless of the temperatures and the rain and the frost. So Mrs. Lee's all wrapped up warm, and so we're going to have a go at building a den at Forest School today, and normally we would use the tarpaulins to help, but we want to show you how you could do it on your walks in woodlands perhaps over the weekend or after school learning one day. So watch us build our den. Whilst we were building our den, we found lots of exciting things, including these oak galls which grow on oak trees. Can you see these round spheres? And they're made by wasps that use the bark of the tree to create a space to lay their eggs. So there won't be any eggs actually left in there, but those are the galls left behind. And in medieval times, they made ink out of those by smashing them up, and they're quite dark in colour, and mixing them with water and other chemicals to make ink. And actually the Magna Carta was written in ink made by those oak galls. They're really, really cool.
Look what we found when we were rummaging around our forest school. We found a bird's nest. We think that it's abandoned now. We're just not tall enough to see if there are any little eggs in there, but I imagine it is because of the season. Now this bird's nest could have been here all through the summer. It could have been, we don't know, because we couldn't see it. This is what winter has to offer. All the hedgerows die back and we find new and exciting things. When you're on your walks, this is another thing to look out for. What could we see in the summer and what can we now see in the winter? So I'm in the den that we just built and it's really snug and cosy in here. Mrs. Armstead read a poem in her indoor den, so I'm going to read you a story in our outdoor den. It's called When Mum Turned Into a Monster. It's me, by the way. Oops. We were having breakfast when the phone rang. "Hello," said Mum. "Hi, yes, 4 o'clock. Lovely, no problem, bye." "Ah!" she cried. "Your cousins are coming to tea. The house is a mess and there's nothing to eat." "Oh no," said Sam. "Children, make your hair and comb your beds and do it properly." "Yes, Mum," we groaned. We knew what she meant. She just wasn't quite herself. Mum spent most of the morning cleaning the house. There was lots to do. Washing up the breakfast things, polishing, hoovering, scrubbing the loo. Somebody has to do it, don't they? Sam and I forgot all about making our beds. We made a jungle camp instead. Oh, look how great that looks. We had a great time, but I don't think Mum was very pleased. Then we had to go to the supermarket. "Will you two stop fighting?" shouted Mum. When we got there, we wanted some crisps, but Mum just kept saying no. She was getting really cross. So we told her she was horrible. Their faces. After a while, we got so fed up, we went off to do our own shopping. We were just beginning to enjoy ourselves when suddenly we crashed into some trolleys. I looked up to see a man standing over us. "And where is your mother?" he asked angrily. "Here!" growled Mum. Mum wouldn't let us have any sweets, so I started to cry. Sam told me to be quiet because everyone was looking at us. So I cried even more, and Sam joined in. Have you seen what's growing here? Look what's happening to Mum. Look at her ears. When we got home, Mum unpacked the shopping while we tried to make a cake. But we made such a mess that Mum told us to keep out of her way. So Sam and I made an adventure playground on the lawn. It was lots of fun going round on our bikes. It was lovely and muddy, said Sam. When it started to rain, we came inside. Mum had laid tea out on the table. It looked so delicious. We just had to help ourselves. It was only after we'd eaten 7 sandwiches, 4 ice buns, 10 biscuits, and most of the chocolate off the top of the cake that we realised Mum might not be too pleased. So we ran upstairs to hide. What a mess, said Sam, stuffing a half-eaten sandwich into his pocket. Then we heard footsteps. Clomp, 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 coming up the stairs. We dived under the bedclothes. Sam looked at his watch. It was nearly 4 o'clock. Suddenly, the door burst open. I had never seen Mum looking this cross before. She turned to shout, but all that came out was smoke and flames and a terrible roar. Oh no, whispered Sam. She's gone completely bonkers. But Mum just slumped into a chair. I used to be quite a nice person, she moaned. But all your mess and fighting, whinging and yelling has turned me, sob, into a monster. Poor Mum. We didn't know what to say, so we decided to tidy our room and make the beds. I gave Mum a cup of tea and we cleared away our coats and boots and hoovered the floor. We put our bikes in the garage and made some more sandwiches. We were just brushing our hair when Mum came in. I'm sorry, she said. I've been such a monster. Oh, Mum, we both cried. We're sorry too. And we hugged each other tight. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The cousins had arrived. As Mum went downstairs to open the door, we suddenly realised that she still had her monstrous hair. Luckily, we warned her just in time. Look at her hair. Well, we made it. Aunt Jane seemed impressed. Darling, she said, everything looks wonderful. I do hope it wasn't too much trouble. It was nothing, mumbled Mum. At tea time, our cousins were awful. They were such monsters, they didn't even notice that their mum had grown a long green tail. I really hope you enjoyed that story today, and hopefully you were listening to it. Maybe if you had a little iPad or something in your own den that you had made. Would love to see some photographs of your dens, whether it's out and about, made from wood or in the garden, or even your indoor cosy den. So please send them to us.
Whilst we were looking for sticks for our den, we found these amazing fungus, and although we should never ever ever touch them because they can be poisonous, and also we don't want to damage them because they're fantastic food for mammals that we might find in the forest, we thought they inspired us to make a little miniature world of dens for some of our friends that we've brought with us today. So we've got a frog and a little Lego man. You can probably tell me who he is better than I can. And an adventurous princess. So we're going to make little homes for them around the little fungus. Do you have any toys that would like it if you built them a den in the garden? We'd love to see photos of you and your toys having adventures out in nature. So do share them with us on Google Classroom. See you next week.